In recent years, China has been making significant strides in developing its domestic semiconductor industry, aiming to reduce its reliance on foreign technology. This move is part of the country's wider strategic plan to become a global technology leader. Today, China is the world's largest consumer of semiconductors, with a market share of around 50%. Despite this, the vast majority of these chips are imported from other countries, particularly the United States and Taiwan. In response, China has launched a series of initiatives to develop its own semiconductor industry, including a Made in China 2025 plan, which aims to increase the country's self-sufficiency in advanced technologies, such as semiconductors. The government has also invested heavily in research and development, with the aim of developing its own indigenous technologies. China's semiconductor industry has already made significant progress in recent years, particularly in the production of memory chips and sensors. Companies such as Huawei's HiSilicon, SMIC, and Yanxi Memory Technologies have emerged as major players in the global semiconductor industry, while other Chinese companies such as Xiaomi and Oppo are also making inroads in the market. The Chinese government's push to develop a domestic semiconductor industry has not been without controversy, however. Critics argue that the government's support for Chinese companies has unfairly tilted the playing field against foreign competitors. In addition, concerns have been raised about the potential for Chinese companies to use their chips for espionage or other nefarious purposes. Despite these concerns, it is clear that China's semiconductor industry is rapidly emerging as a major global player. As China continues to invest in research and development, and as its domestic companies gain more experience and expertise, it seems likely that China will become increasingly self-sufficient in this critical technology. One key factor that has allowed China's semiconductor industry to flourish is its large pool of skilled labor. China has a huge population, and the government has made significant investments in education and training, particularly in science and technology fields. This has resulted in a large and growing pool of highly skilled engineers and scientists who are now working in China's semiconductor industry. China's size and rapidly growing economy provide a significant market for semiconductors, particularly for consumer electronics and other high-tech products. This has encouraged foreign semiconductor companies to set up operations in China and has also provided a market for Chinese companies to sell their products. However, China's semiconductor industry still faces significant challenges. Despite its progress, it still lags behind more established players in key areas, such as advanced process technologies and design expertise. In addition, the industry is still heavily reliant on foreign technology and equipment, particularly from the United States and Taiwan. This reliance on foreign technology makes China vulnerable to supply chain disruptions, such as those caused by recent trade tensions between China and the United States. Overall, it is clear that China's semiconductor industry is a significant force in the global technology landscape. As China continues to invest in research and development, and as its domestic companies gain more experience and expertise, it seems likely that the industry will continue to grow and become increasingly self-sufficient. However, it will also face significant challenges as it strives to catch up with more established players in the global semiconductor market. China's semiconductor industry has been a priority for the Chinese government for several years. In 2014, the government launched the National Integrated Circuit Industry Development Promotion Plan, a 10-year initiative to develop the country's semiconductor industry. The plan calls for China to achieve self-sufficiency in key semiconductor technologies, such as memory chips and microprocessors, by 2030. One of the key initiatives under this plan is the creation of several national champions in the semiconductor industry. These are large, state-owned companies that are expected to lead the way in developing China's domestic semiconductor industry. These companies are heavily subsidized by the government and have received billions of dollars in funding over the past several years. One of the most high-profile of these national champions is Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporation. Founded in 2000, SMIC is China's largest foundry and is responsible for producing semiconductors for a wide range of applications, including smartphones, automobiles, and consumer electronics. The company has made significant progress in recent years and is now producing chips using advanced process technologies such as 14nm and 12nm. Another major player in China's semiconductor industry is Huawei's HiSilicon. HiSilicon is the semiconductor arm of Huawei and is responsible for designing and producing semiconductors for a wide range of applications, including smartphones and network equipment. The company has developed several advanced chips, including the Kirin 990, which is used in Huawei's flagship smartphones. In addition to these national champions, China has also created several innovation centers to support the development of its semiconductor industry. These centers are designed to bring together government, industry, and academic resources to promote innovation and research in key semiconductor technologies. Despite these investments, China's semiconductor industry still faces significant challenges. One of the biggest is the country's reliance on foreign technology and equipment. While China has made significant progress in developing its own semiconductor technologies, it still lags behind more established players in key areas, such as advanced process technologies and design expertise. To address this issue, China has been working to attract foreign semiconductor companies to set up operations in the country. In recent years, several major semiconductor companies, including Intel, Samsung, and TSMC, have announced plans to build fabs in China. These fabs are expected to bring advanced process technologies and expertise to China and to help the country become more self-sufficient in key semiconductor technologies. Another challenge facing China's semiconductor industry is the issue of intellectual property protection. China has long been criticized for its lax IP protection laws, which have allowed Chinese companies to copy foreign technologies without facing significant penalties. While the Chinese government has made some efforts to improve IP protection in recent years, the issue remains a major concern for foreign semiconductor companies. Despite these challenges, China's semiconductor industry has made significant progress in recent years. In 2019, Chinese semiconductor companies accounted for nearly 20% of the global semiconductor market, up from just 5% a decade earlier. While this is still a small fraction of the overall market, it represents a significant shift in the balance of power in the global semiconductor industry. Looking ahead, it seems likely that China's semiconductor industry will continue to grow and become increasingly self-sufficient. The Chinese government's continued investments in research and development, as well as its support for domestic semiconductor companies, suggest that the industry will remain a priority for the country in the coming years. At the same time, however, China's semiconductor industry will face significant challenges as it seeks to catch up with more established players in the global semiconductor market. The industry will need to overcome its reliance on foreign technology and equipment, as well as address concerns around IP protection and other issues. In addition, the recent trade tensions between China and the United States have highlighted the risks associated with China's reliance on foreign technology and the importance of developing domestic technologies. One potential area of growth for China's semiconductor industry is in the development of AI chips. AI is becoming increasingly important in a wide range of industries, and demand for specialized AI chips is growing rapidly. China is well positioned to take advantage of this trend, given its large pool of skilled labor and growing expertise in the field of AI. Several Chinese companies are already developing AI chips, including Huawei's HiSilicon, Cambrican Technologies, and Horizon Robotics. These companies are working on developing specialized chips for use in AI applications, such as image recognition and natural language processing. If successful, these chips could give Chinese companies a competitive edge in the growing AI market. Another potential area of growth for China's semiconductor industry is in the development of 5G technology. 5G is expected to be a major driver of growth in the telecommunications industry over the next several years, and demand for 5G chips is expected to grow rapidly. China is already a leader in 5G technology, and Chinese companies such as Huawei and ZTE are expected to play a major role in the global rollout of 5G networks. In addition, Chinese semiconductor companies are developing 5G chips for use in smartphones, base stations, and other applications. Despite its rapid growth, however, China's semiconductor industry still faces significant challenges. In addition to the issues mentioned above, the industry is also grappling with a shortage of skilled labor. While China has a large pool of skilled workers, many of them lack the specialized skills needed to work in the semiconductor industry. To address this issue, the Chinese government has launched several initiatives aimed at training workers for the semiconductor industry. These initiatives include partnerships with universities and research institutes, as well as vocational training programs for workers. In addition to these domestic challenges, China's semiconductor industry is also facing increasing scrutiny from foreign governments. The United States, in particular, has been cracking down on Chinese technology companies in recent years, citing concerns around national security and intellectual property theft. These concerns have led to restrictions on the sale of US-made technology to Chinese companies, as well as restrictions on Chinese companies' ability to do business in the United States. Despite these challenges, however, it seems likely that China's semiconductor industry will continue to grow and become an increasingly important player in the global technology landscape. The Chinese government's continued investments in research and development, as well as its support for domestic semiconductor companies, suggest that the industry will remain a priority for the country in the coming years. In conclusion, China's semiconductor industry has emerged as a major player in the global technology landscape in recent years. The country's rapid growth in this area is a reflection of its larger strategic goal of becoming a global technology leader. While the industry still faces significant challenges, including its reliance on foreign technology and equipment and concerns around IP protection, China's continued investments in research and development, as well as its support for domestic semiconductor companies, suggest that the industry will continue to grow and become increasingly self-sufficient in the coming years.